Welcome to episode 14 of A Standard Moon Start. We ended the previous episode of making a number of superalloys and stepping into the base. And now I'm about to address some of the comments I've received. One specifically is I should swap tanks and not have a single tank and just kind of wait for things to fill. And so while dealing with the tank issue, what I figure I'd do, I'll make two smart tanks for the jetpack. So I'll just be able to swap those and obviously bump the pressure way up. I'll also make two O2 tanks for the same reason. So I can go ahead and bump that pressure way up. I don't really go through that much O2. So this will reduce the number of times I have to actually spin to switch those tanks. Also going to make a hardsuit jetpack that gives me more storage and a faster rate of travel. So it's definitely useful to make. I was putting it off because I needed to make the super alloys, which I finally got around to making. So I have all of them. And what I'm doing is I'm just going to slice up all these up into 50s as needed. I made a pretty big batch of, at least for me, of super alloys, and hopefully I can avoid printer swapping of, or printer dumping and swapping of the super alloy elements. I have enough for each printer. It's getting a little messy here. We're just trying to get this jetpack made. Okay, so we're going to have a new jetpack, and we only want one of those. Go ahead and make our robot arm so we can automate the first farm segment. And what I mean by that is I believe I can get 4 farm units, and a farm unit is, one grow light and a 5x7 area, which is handled by one robot, and associated input bin. And so they kind of run all in parallel. And just go ahead and I believe I can get 4 of those, and that probably does do all wheat. The system is sort of built for wheat as far as the timing goes. I'll initially have the wheat just go into a stacker just so it doesn't make that big of a mess and pile up. But once I get a sufficient amount of wheat, I'll set up the other components. So I need to run it through a recycler and a centrifuge. So it's an interesting path for wheat. So if we throw the wheat into the recycler, we get a reagent. If we throw that reagent directly into, say, an arc furnace, for example, we get charcoal. But we get no additional gases from that process. The charcoal then can be used either for making steel or running a solid generator for power, and that itself will generate carbon dioxide and pollutants. Now the other path is after you run it through a recycler, you run it through a centrifuge, and that will give you biomass. Now the biomass also can be put into an arc furnace to generate charcoal, but now it will generate both. It'll generate volatiles and pollutants. Now the other path, you can take those. Instead of putting the biomass in the arc furnace, you can put the biomass in a composter, and that composter will generate volatiles and nitrogen, but that process consumes water to do that, and it consumes water and it generates volatiles, but it's a very thin threshold of then taking the resulting volatiles and water, oxygen to make more water, and you get just a little bit of net volatiles out of that process. So you definitely want to scale up the system. And we gotta print up a mess of linear rails. So initially I'll just get the farms going because that gets me oxygen, and I'll just have them just generate a lot of wheat product. I'm noticing my suit's still on. So once I get the farms going, I'll actually probably connect all the input bins together for a one solid path for all the wheat, and then process it in one place, probably on the other side of the structure. And I'll slowly automate and put components in there. So we have to turn that off. I don't have any systems internally for cleaning out pollutants, so we need to paint outside. So these are two O2 bottles, or future O2 bottles. We'll leave our jetpack bottle yellow for now. I guess this should make it gray, but I kind of want to stand out that this is for the jetpack and not be concerned about what's inside of it in case I change my mind. All right, so that will deal with the jetpack. So we'll let it fill, and then we'll swap to the other one we made. And the green one, we'll just dump that inside and put the tank, put it in the shelf. All right, so this is something else I mentioned last time. I spent a lot of time dragging ingots from the outside to the inside. And I said, wouldn't a set of chutes be really useful right about here? So I decided to go ahead and do that. It's already got more gas than my current tank. This way I can get rid of the green one. Now obviously putting that green tank back in that slot would be very dangerous since it only has a 10 megapascal limit, and I cranked the pressure up to 1.18 megapascals. I'm just checking, double checking it just has CO2 in it. It's a little warm CO2, but we can dump that into our building area. And back in. So we control the pressure using a chip. So since we're going to switch over to smart tanks, we'll crank up that value. So we'll just load this code. Oops. I want to import what's there. And we're going to change this. We're just going to put a 1 there and export it. As long as you don't forget and put a non-smart tank in there, we're good. Let's put that there for now. And we'll empty this out. Keep our paint over here. Let me finish up our we don't want to sort of pile up in the bottom there, so I'm going to actually just bring this up a little bit. And we'll curve it out a little bit, extend it a little bit. Oops, there. So then as we make the ingots, we can just toss it into the chute and drop it inside. Obviously that could probably be, like if I move the furnace over, connect them. Yeah, thinking about it, I got a lot of room out there. I'm cleaning a lot of stuff out. I can actually put a second furnace out there and have one furnace where the output always goes directly inside. And then the other furnace I'll leave there for more, we'll say, complicated type work. Yeah, I don't get around to improving lighting in here. It's on the list. I just forgot to focus on that. Make some more French fries. Yeah, we're not going to milk with the farm either. I think everything's gone to seed now, and it's just I got plenty of food. It's actually surprising how small of a farm you really need. You definitely have a way overkill, although it's useful for generating additional O2. Okay, so I can swap that to that guy, and this one we can, when that empties, we'll just dump this out. So all the O2 was in there, we'll dump that out, and then we'll just store those away for now. Yeah, I kind of like this little space between the floors for storage and whatnot. Okay, so now the excitement of installing the robot. All right, so the key thing at robot, you notice that little plus symbol. It's on one side. That's where you'll connect the tracks. So the station itself is origin 0. I actually thought it would go negative, so I actually, when I was playing around, initially I put tracks on both sides, but that doesn't work. Okay, so we have stations, and those are locations it stops at. They're basically indexed. I gotta change this one out. Nope. I don't even get a message saying you have to use a drill. Disappointed. When I rotate, I believe I'm hitting the delete key, which is the keyboard rotation mechanism. Yeah, for this, you really need to use that keyboard for rotating, because hitting C just gives you different types of railings. We have to make a turn here. We'll hit the keyboard, rotate it around. So if you haven't seen this before, I have a dedicated video which I go over the robot stuff, and this is the same version 1 type code, and the goal is to basically get things working. Over time, I will probably, this is sort of my long-term experiment, I'll probably be making adjustments depending on how well they work or don't work if I find problems over the long term. And then I'll fold that in sort of a V2 update. Identify one small problem, which I recovered from, but I'll explain that when it occurs. And this system was tuned for wheat, and it's got a buffer in there, so it should do well. And with 4 of these running, that should provide me more than enough biomaterial for stuff going on. And one thing I haven't played around is fertilizer. So fertilizer would make the plants grow much faster, and so in that case, this design would probably break down, because now your plants are growing at a much higher rate, and then the robot arm just won't be moving fast enough. This one doesn't really matter because it's the last one, but I figure I just put the curved one just in case I wanted to add more down the way. So back with its farming design. Yeah, so this design is sort of for wheat, no fertilizer. A fertilizer version probably would switch to device trays, which is pretty standard what are using in that case, because with the fertilizer and the type of fertilizer, that would greatly accelerate the rate of growth, and then the deltas become more apparent between different plants. So we'll see. All right, so these are going to be the my pollution filters, and I put them way back here, and you know, if I spray paint a little bit and get a little bit of pollutant, they'll kind of slowly work through it. It's not a big rush. The paint doesn't add that much, so there's no immediate effect to the plants or breathing when you spray a little bit. But it will accumulate over time, and this will just should keep up with it. Yeah, so I need some pipe and some just checking if all these are happy. I need to put the IC chip there and all that to get that going. A lot of running up and down. At least it's better than going outside and back in. So there's no airlock delay. So I need 6 passive vents. We're also going to move this O2 extraction down, or add a O2 extraction tank down below. So, you know, make sure we don't keep adding more and more oxygen as the plant's doing their thing, and then we overpressurize the room. So, you know, basically just look at the O2 level. If the ratio is above, you know, 50% and the pressure is below 75, it'll just pull the excess oxygen out, put it in a tank. We'll go ahead and make another filter while we're here. So I need 1 filter for my suit, and I need 4 pollutant filters for the filtration devices. Yeah, I do have the materials to make the heavies now, but we'll wait off on that. We'll see how they do on the standard stuff, and at some point I'll probably, when I get ready to rotate these things through, make the heavy filters at that point. Just looking for anything interesting. I'll also combine these stacks together. Sort of my need more locker room up here. I could use this obviously down in the middle for storing all this excess stuff too. It all takes time. All right, so I go to put this in here, and this would work fine. It's perfectly fine. But the other side comes out this wall. It's like going, that one goes out one wall, this goes out the other wall. So I decided to just move it over by 1. And we'll put it right there. Yeah, on that one I did double click to move the pipes back and forth. That works out pretty well. Yeah, I'm definitely leveraging that technique more. Okay, so let's be the basic one. Basically, if we find pollutants, we dump it outside. Everything else we just recycle back into the room. And we'll just keep it symmetrical. The goal is we'll have each side of this base with its own independent power system. I think they're kind of crossed over right now, but I'm going to do something with that sensor sticking up there, but not this episode. It just didn't want to spend the time moving it around. I want to get going on my plants here. And those extra hydroponic trays are for the next, we'll call it farm 2. And it uses about 3. Just kind of checking. I'm just kind of checking the spacing for the next farm. See how everything goes. And also depth verifying. I haven't made any boo-boos. And the plants are doing okay. I think we're done with that O2 tank, or XO2 tank. Now I got a little more room in my jetpack storage, or my hard suit storage, or I guess they call it backpack. So my backpack storage. Yeah, those radiators on the side are embedded in the frame. That actually impacts performance, I'm pretty sure. Same issue on this side. I have those radiators above, right there, embedded in the frame. They should be off by 1. I'll actually put a note to fix that in the next episode. Alright, so we're going to clean up this mess out here. And that's empty, that's all empty. So we can just remove everything, and order doesn't really matter. At some point, I'll move the jetpack filling downstairs off that CO2 tank I have there, and or I'll have the suit rack set up by then, and then have it fill that way. Yeah, the suit rack is a kind of weird thing for the backpack, because if you take your backpack off to have it fill your propellant for your jetpack, well, all the items you have stored in there are, you know, gone, or, you know, in the other backpack. So I guess the technique is you have sort of an outdoor backpack and an indoor backpack. So the indoor doesn't have a jetpack, or doesn't have a jetpack part of the backpack. Here I'm cleaning up this section right here. So I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, or just keep manually swapping the propellant tank, so I don't have to pull my backpack off and move things around, or have things in the wrong place, or duplicate tools and all that fun and games. Yeah, this is really just for ingots, but I figure I just toss it in there to kind of take advantage of it. Okay, we're going to do some mining. We get way away from the base, so we can not make it too cratery around the base area. So you may notice, not only did I do the mining at 5x, update my batteries, and we'll put the stuff in the casing, and we'll do smelting. So we'll do all this at 5x. There shouldn't be anything new at this point, and my general policy, the way I do it, everyone has their own ways, and that's perfectly fine. Just my technique is to show all the videos, so there's nothing ever cut out. I'll just speed up the kind of boring parts. And this is even at 5x, it takes a while. So here I'm making a bunch of steel, and then once I make a bunch of steel, I have a bunch of steel, but you know, never gonna have too much. And now I'm leveraging my little chute there. It's kind of neat. So I definitely need to put some chutes on the input of my furnace. That would definitely make things a lot easier, and then I can load it up and not have to sit there and feed it one by one. Also think about moving it out. Once I have nitrogen, all that stuff cleaned up, move it so it's out of the way a little bit, but haven't decided on that. Yeah, I have no plans to enclose it. It's sitting in a vacuum so it doesn't lose heat that quickly, and given that volatiles and oxide are so easy to find, I, at least for now, don't see an issue of doing that. Not at least until I get some deep miners running. Now with the deep miners and the ore in that case already degas, then having, you know, furnaces that are enclosed that maintain temperature are very useful, because then you just take all the stuff you mine and just sort it through and run it through the furnaces, and you just have piles of ingots coming out. And there's, you know, I've never actually done that. I'm still noob to this game in a lot of respects. There's obviously a ton of videos on that. That tank's not that hot. So I'm just going to open this up and put my downstairs filtration stuff to work. And this is nice and full. Not sure why I want to wait for that thing to hit 0. Anyway, I'm going to empty that out, and then we'll close it up and put on some hotter gas in there next time around. And I said, once I move my jetpack filling downstairs, I'll take that CO2 tank up there, and I'll do the same thing, and I'll just dump it in the line. Except this time I'll put one-way valves on the main tank so it doesn't move that cool gas into my furnace tank there. Okay, so we got lots of O2, and that's fine. So I got 2 really full tanks of O2, which will last me a long time actually. So I'm going to rip all this out and get ready to move it. And we'll pull this off. There's gas in the tank, in those pipes. We'll put it there and reverse remove. We don't actually reinstall it this episode. It's not really a priority since I have a lot of O2. First thing is get the O2 collection going downstairs. And then as it collects O2, and then I just put a pressure regulator on it. And this filter unit will go downstairs, so basically it'll pull out of the room and just dump it into that main tank. It will use effectively the same code I use in the Vulcan series, which does the same thing. And the code will be in the description. Next series I do, I'm going to put all the code on GitHub and be a little more structured. Possibly putting the copies of the daily, or maybe every so many episode, put the whole map out there too, so if you want to poke around. These 2 episodes is basically me getting practice and running the videos, and been playing around with the audio issues and trying to improve on that. So that should be getting better. I still have a crappy voice, so only so much I can do with the audio. but within the range of what I can improve. We're trying to make that better. The latest video should be better. I solved some problem. I moved the mic position, and I'm also changed the way I encoded the audio. So I noticed a lot of audios, like when I would say, you know, welcome back, part of the welcome got cut off, and that was due to the way the format I was transferring the audio from Premiere to the sound app, and I switched that. So that solved that problem, but that's only very recent. So basically, these two series is my learning curve of trying to improve things and improve my techniques and improving things like lighting and switching tanks, and just trying to nail out both the general gameplay and the editing and audio stuff, and try to get them pretty reasonable. And then the next series, which I'm not sure if I'm doing, which plan will be that. That's not for a while. I'm going to run these for a while. There's a lot of automation to be done for both planets, so the goal is basically have this the moon here fully automated, which is going to be, you know, growing the plants, and that includes even using charcoal for power. That's going to be interesting. So curious if I get to the point where I don't need any more solar, or even take the solar down and just run off that. I'm not going to try a Stirling for the moon. People do it. It just seems to be a little too much effort to make it work on a vacuum planet. So I'll go we'll go the charcoal route. Charcoal and solid generator, and then that gives us CO2, which is useful. So we'll collect the CO2 from that process. And then got some plans from deep miners. I'm going to put a lower floor for my basement, go down even further. That'll be an open space. I'll be open to vacuum, because the deep miners, you really can't seal those up with the atmosphere. So they'll run down there and do the ore processing. Find my screwdriver here. But for now, we are still getting the basics going on, at least for the moon. So this is where we'll just, this is the chip I have, so we'll just put that in there. That code will be in the description. It's same as Vulkan. It's pretty simple. It just, it makes sure it doesn't put too much in the output line. I think I have it at 30 megapascals, so we don't blow the tank up. And it makes sure it doesn't drop the O2 level in the room too low, the O2 or the pressure level in the room too low, because we wouldn't want to suck all the O2 out. So this weird cabling, I have, as I talked before, I want to run it off the two frames and not so close to the edge there. And so this is probably like for this side, go all the way down, and at some point I'm going to pull that other cable up, you see, to the upper left there, and yank that out, but I'm not going to do it this episode. All right, so this is running. It's happy, and we'll do the same thing. Once again, we'll try to go for a symmetrical power system here. Probably some point go ahead and put my own set of batteries in here, just run off each side off its own battery, and then I think I can monitor all that independently. So this way I have, like, if I overdrive part of the base, I don't end up with everything going dead on me. This is a big room. Okay, so the plants seem pretty happy. There's actually, you'll see it before, there's actually one, so it's kind of funny, you get like this one odd plant that grows slowly. It's like a very unhappy plant. Probably only worth digging it up and replanting when you see it. and which is good it happened because it allows me to deal with that condition. So here I am kind of looking at where I'm going to put this filler thing, and I decided I'm not going to bother right now. But right about there, I'm going to put the my filler for my suit there, at least for now. And we'll go ahead and throw some extra oxide in the environment. And let's just check out, so it's now the temperature went up because I dumped all that gas in, and the logic doesn't, if the output tank is above 50 Celsius, it stops filtering. So that means the CO2 tank should stay, between 20 and 50. And look at the gas tank. Now there's nitrox, a bit of nitrox in there, and oxygen. I'm just dumping all that right now. The nitrox has some issues storing it, and I don't want to get into that right now, that complexity. And it's not hard to get more nitrox. If I really want nitrox, I can just grab a bunch of ice and have a bunch of it really fast. Just trying to do this step by step. So basically, I think the big focus right now is automating of wheat production to be used for the next generation automation, next level of production line. And thus the O2 extraction is important because I don't want the O2 levels going too high. We have the CO2 injection going on. Now the CO2 injection depends on us using the furnace to smelt for that hot gas right now. So we're not self-generating CO2 as part of the automation yet. And we'll probably hopefully if we burn the charcoal, that'll give us enough CO2 to keep the whole thing sort of going around and around. Oh, obviously when I start making water, that will also generate a nice source of CO2 too. So that water generation needs to happen. I gotta make volatiles first. So all right, so we got the plants going. So the key thing for the plants to automate is to make volatiles. We need volatiles without mining. And the byproducts of that is we get CO2, and depending which way we go on composting, we might get fertilizer and nitrogen out of it too. I actually think I have a housing down there in that pile, and I just forgot I had one down there. I'll put up another housing here. No, like it's gonna go to waste. So I printed a bunch of more chutes because I don't actually do it right now. But for each of those farm units I build out, I don't want to have each having its own, stacker and this and that and all that. I want to just take all that product and just route to one central place to process. And this will allow me to deal with the wheat seed issue, which can happen. And all that logic will be in one place. So I just basically, as I build it out for one farm, I'll build it for the rest. What I'm going to do, I think next episode, I'll build out farm 2. And in programming, the key is 2 equals in. So if you design something, never design something for 1, design it for at least 2. And so we'll get 2 farms going, connect them up, and then take the output, route it, and start doing that process. So that's, and getting out there. So next episode, we'll get another farm going. Next episode after that, which will be 16, we'll should have enough wheat pouring out that we can start that processing. Now this is the robot script. And it's the same dimensions as I used in the test run. So I don't have to change the parameters here. And this is still a V1. There's, as said in my farm automation video, there's definitely improvements. I have a list of improvements in my comment section of things down the way. But we'll run this, let's get it going. And now that we have our pollutant filters running, we can print up some paint and start painting some of that stuff downstairs so it's not all orange. And I have that white can over here somewhere. There it is. I think it's mostly the noise from those stupid fans on there. We need to have an improved tier 2 printer with improved reduced fan noise. All right, so I'm just going to sort of stick this here. I'm not sure, just for now, just have it here long term so I don't make too big of a mess. And as I said, I want to have the output of all the input bins just probably going up to the ceiling and routing across, and then have one stacker for all the farms. But for now, I'm just going to do this just to start working my way through that automation process. So we'll actually do some of that pipelining manually too until we get it fully automated. And you know, for example, I'll just collect all the wheat and throw it in the recycler manually, and then process it, and then take that and throw it into a centrifuge, and then I'll start connecting that stuff up. And yeah, I'm not really sure where to put this housing. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to move it, I think. I got to the point where, well, I'll just stick it somewhere for now, and then as I build out the other farms, when I build a second farm out, then I'll probably make more sense. And we'll have one chip per farm. Although I could run, can I run? I'm thinking if I can run multiple farms off one piece of code. There's a lot of state involved, so probably not without a lot of work. If you had had a lot more room and a real programming language, then yeah, you can do it with one chip, no problem. Another problem too is I'm not sure how to isolate the robot in the bin versus everything, all the other wirings. Because the lights, I want the light to be common. I don't need the lights are all controlled by a centralized chip, and then they'll be on the main network. So for now, we'll just give everything unique names. So we'll call this stuff. So when we set them up, we know which is which. So we have the robot farm 1 and farm 1 import bin. This will go away, but we'll name it anyway. We'll have a common stacker long term. Let's call it the farm stacker then. So farm 1 IC housing. Why not? Okay, so I'm about to make a mistake here. So we're going to program these up. And since we didn't isolate them on a transformer, we have to look through. Not too bad. So the first one, the robot arm, the second one is the bin. And we do the bin for the, so we can automate opening and closing. Now I just made a mistake. Spot the mistake. I just made a second mistake. All right, so what's happening here? I didn't realize it until after, and so I kind of watched this and wonder what's going on with the robot, and I'm not really noticing it. The robot arm, I'm gonna go paint. I guess while I'm painting it here, I'll go ahead and talk about the robot arm problem. So the coding instructed the robot to pick up what it believes is a C from the first spot, which is 0, which is fine. Except the robot was turned off when this happened. So the next part, when it tells it to pick up, it waits for idle. Now idle is set to 1, since it's powered off, idle is 0. So it issues a command to basically pick something up, activate, and then it waits for idle, so the robot arm just sits there. So when I turn the robot power on, it immediately hit idle, and then it gave its next command, move to the import bin. Unfortunately, the activate to pick up item didn't actually do anything because the robot arm was off. So now the hand is empty. So now it dumped nothing into that. It didn't plant anything here. So then it goes in the process where it needs to go ahead and take everything else and dump it in the bin, which is just dump seed in there. I go, wait a minute. I'm supposed to plant something there, not put the seed there. And so I'm looking at this going, what did I F up? This worked. I swear this worked. So that's in it. What's happening is that it did operate as expected, given the fact that the robot was turned off when it was started. So I will make two small improvements to the code before I add it to the description. The one is I'll have it turn the robot arm on and the input bin on before it starts. And those are simple changes to do. There's more, we talked about this in my robot automate, there's more sophisticated checks to make. Like, for example, it shouldn't have tried to plant nothing. When it thought it picked up something, it should at that point stall, because it thought it picked up a seed, but it had nothing in its arm. And it's easy to check for that. And I quite acknowledge that there's certain simplifications in the code. But then it starts running, and it just runs fine. So what I end up doing is go ahead and take that seed and just manually plant it. And there's enough buffer here that's more enough time for that to catch up. So that's the first weird thing. The second weird thing is like the third tray down, it hasn't seeded yet. That's the one that's running slow. It's just like a slow plant for some reason. And so it hasn't seeded. So it goes to pick up the item, and it picks up wheat and puts it in the bin behind previously. No problem. As I said before, if there's no seed, the system recovers, and that's not a problem. But the other weird thing that happened is that because there was no seed, but went to pick the wheat, then it went to seed. So now it picked up some seed after it planted the wheat. It all makes sense, and it dumps the seed into the input bin, which means that we could occasionally get seed in a normal environment, and so I need to deal with that condition. Either I separate out the random seeds and just dump them on the floor, or I just toss those into recycler and not care about it. I haven't decided what I'm doing yet, but I have to deal with the seeds. And by taking all the raw shoots and merging it all together, that logic can be in one place to deal with that condition. And now we're just running normally. I kind of watch it for a while because I was at this point in the video, I wasn't really sure why it started up wrong. And then I realized, afterwards, I first thought that I was thinking that the bin was too close and there's some bug in the code. Number one issue with developer is not your code, it's someone else made the bug. But that wasn't the issue. It turned out once I kind of thought about it, realized what happened there. So as I said, a code I'll adjust. So from the we'll call it version 1.1 or whatever, it'll have the auto power on just to help solve that problem. And once I realized the problem, it's just simple to recover from that. I just went ahead and manually plant. All right, so that's running. Sorry, but forgot to turn the lights on. So I get so used to that tunnel vision area. So we get a little pollutant in there. It's coming way down. Getting those last few moles seems to take like forever. And, it doesn't hurt the plant or anything. It's just a low value. And I'm aware that I have very simple pipes, and it's just going to take forever to get that pollutant out, and I just don't care. I could run pipes through the ceilings, connect them all up, but what I have is fine. So kind of watch the robot zip around a little bit here. So this is about the end of the video. If you want to hang out, so what I do for the next few minutes here is I watch the robot run for a while and kind of double check everything and make sure things are working as expected. And yes, everything is working as expected. So after I get bored watching the robot for a while, maybe organize some gear and stuff like that, I'll go ahead and just go upstairs and just end it at the upper level. I'm not going to go outside or anything, and then that'll be it. So you're welcome to hang out for a few more minutes and watch the robot move around, and until next time, see ya.